What are we talking about? Practice? We're talking about practice, man.
This is UnCleated with Garrett, Gibbs, and Jason Bishop.
In my opinion, that sucked.
We failed to make our coaching points and our points more compelling than their fat little girlfriend.
Oh my God, did he really just say that?
And here we go. UnCleated, Garrett, Gibbs, Jason Bishop. A lot to get to this week. A lot to talk about. Braves clinched their playoff berth. We're going to talk about their chances in the playoffs. We're going to break down the Georgia LSU game. We're going to run down the top 25 for you, give some upset picks, also our top 10, maybe a little bit of extra stuff, but we got a lot to get into, so we're going to go ahead and jump right in.
Before we get into it, I got a little story, funny little story I got to share before we get started and all that. My brother came to me the other day. The SSE has so many people on its tag list, probably half of the southeast region, I would say, of population. And he came to me and he said, I got some pictures on my Facebook that are showing up that I don't know where they come from. And I said, well, let me look at it. And so I did. And he said, well, it's Jason is putting these on my profile, and I don't know how in the world he's doing it. And I said, well, I think you've fallen victim, much like many other folks are out there, and myself included. When he tags you in these posts, I said, they show up on your profile. That's how it works. And so we just had a good laugh about that. I thought that was funny. Now my brother's not a big Facebook or internet connoisseur. It was just funny having to explain that one to him.
Yeah, and in case you're unfamiliar with what Garrett's talking about, Bishop Media, who is the parent company here of UnCleated, they also own a sports publication called the Southern Sports Edition, which I help promote via my Facebook. Essentially what I do is anytime the Southern Sports Edition prints, we also place an online version, and then so we have Facebook teasers. So I'll place the Facebook teaser on Facebook, and I'll randomly go through my friends list and just tag people with a picture.
Well, I want you one day to compile a list, and I want to know how many people you have on that friends list, because it's got to be in the thousands. So let's get started.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started.
Atlanta Braves.
So the Braves have clinched. They're heading on to play in October, which was the goal from the outset. The division race really wasn't much of a race, which we kind of thought it was going to be heading into spring training. Thought Washington and Atlanta were going to go back and forth. Braves ran away with the division. They were the much better team in the division all year. Washington could never get their act together to make it a race at all. So the Braves are in. So now they're heading to October. Garrett, their chances of getting the World Series.
I don't like their chances. I feel like that their lineup, they haven't had a big standout guy, all year long. I think Justin Upton, for all the Braves fans out there, when he started out the season, I think they felt like that he could be a Triple Crown candidate by the end of the year. He started out hotter than anybody in the league, and he's ended up with some, decent numbers, but, their batting average as a team is relatively, low, below 300. And I don't think, the point I'm trying to make is I don't think that in the postseason, I don't think they're going to do it with their bats. Okay? I think it's going to be starting pitching. They have the best closer in the game. That's been known for quite a while. But they're starting pitching. If they can perform at a decent, moderate to high level, I think once they get into the bullpen, though, I think that's where they have the edge over everybody. I think they got the deepest bullpen in the majors.
Yeah. If they win the World Series, they're going to win it with their bullpen strength, because one thing the Braves don't have is a lot of experience at the starting rotation, or in their starting rotation for playoffs. They've got one guy who's made one start between their whole rotation, that's going to be pitching, not counting Freddie Garcia, because he's probably not going to be in that starting rotation. So they've had one guy with one start. That's Chris Medlin. One start between the whole rotation in the playoffs. That was Chris Medlin last year. The infield fly rule game, as we affectionately like to call it.
All the Braves fans out there amongst the world, I'm sure they're glad that we don't come down to another game like that, a single elimination game like that, because that was heartbreaking for all the fans out there, and I really wanted to see them get to the playoffs, and now they left no doubt. I mean, they pretty much, like you said earlier, they pretty much ran away with the division from the jump. I mean, I think 2 or 3 months into the division, they were pretty much so far ahead that unless they just completely fell on their face, kind of much like they did last year, they were going to win the East pretty handily. I think Washington ended up 9 games back, and the next guy, the old Philadelphia Phillies, and I say that pun intended, they were 22 games back. I mean, I just felt like 2 months ago their season was done.
And it's time for Philadelphia to start taking a good hard look at rebuilding that team, maybe trading off some of their pieces and getting some younger talent in there and getting that thing rebuilt, because it's a mess. The thing that concerns me, coming back to the Braves, the thing that concerns me the most is that starting rotation with the lack of experience. Minor's had a great year. Tehran's had a great year. Medlin's had a fantastic second half. The thing that concerns me is when you get into these short series and you start going up against not one time a series, but 2 or 3 different times in the same series an elite pitcher. The Braves, we don't have that. The Braves do not have that elite shutdown guy in their rotation. And I thought from the beginning of the year that was going to be a weakness if they got into October. The thing is, their bullpen has been so fantastic that they haven't needed that. So heading into the playoffs, if their starters can give them 6 innings and keep them in the game for those 6 innings, which they've done the whole year, if they continue to do that and they turn it over to the bullpen in the 7th inning, for me that's a recipe for success, and the Braves have done that all year, minus having that elite shutdown starter.
Tehran, he has definitely had a great year this year, being as young as he is. I mean, he's leading the team with a just over 3 ERA. You're right. They don't have a standout star, kind of like a Greg Maddux kind of guy. They really haven't had one since him. I mean, Tim Hudson's been a great, consistent, starting pitcher. And with him going down, that's really going to hurt their playoffs in the pitching rotation, in my opinion, because of his experience. I feel like that the postseason is a lot different than the regular season. I mean, it's a whole nother season now. Once you get into the postseason, and everything tightens up. Everything tightens up. And guys make, bigger pitches. The rotations shrink down. And I just don't see, between Minor, Tehran, and Medlin, they're just not going to dominate like the Braves pitching staffs of old in the playoffs.
Those guys have to pitch to contact where a Randy Johnson, Kurt Schilling, Jake Peavy, Kevin Brown, those names, or those are the names that come to mind for those great October runs. Those guys that they bear down and they will just eat your lunch. They're so competitive when they get on the mound. We have more pitch to contact guys exactly like that. Until we get into the bullpen, I don't know, and I'm going to say this: I don't know if I like the Braves' chances if they have to run through St. Louis, because essentially if you have the opportunity to set your rotations up, I'm pretty certain the Braves are probably going to go with Mike Minor or Chris Medlin to begin the playoffs. And so you're going to be asking Mike Minor or Chris Medlin to likely have to beat an Adam Wainwright twice in a short series. Good luck.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. They might sneak out and get one of those wins. And that, with the starting pitching, I think if the bats can come alive, I think they have one of the best lineups in the league. And, you got your Freddie Freeman, he can get awfully hot. Justin Upton. I mean, how about Mr. No Gloves, Evan Gaddis? I mean, how much of a staple has he been all year, for the Braves? And nobody really gave the guy a shot. I think if the starting pitching, can somewhat hold their own, the bats don't completely go to sleep, they can get into they can have a competitive game leading into the bullpen. Braves have the advantage all day.
That bullpen, what you're looking at is they're going to have a huge advantage versus any team that has a critical or key left-handed bat or is left-handed oriented. You already have Scott Downs, who you made a trade for at the trading deadline. He's pitched outstanding since he's coming down the stretch for the Braves.
He has.
You already had Luis Avalon, who had stepped in and had done a fantastic job when O'Flaherty went down for the season. So those two guys, those two left-handers by themselves, have been lights out pretty much the whole year. Well, now you're going to have Mulholland probably pitch mostly out of the bullpen. You're definitely going to move Alex Wood to the bullpen. Those are two more solid shutdown left-handers that are going to be moving to the bullpen to come in and get maybe one batter, two batters if necessary. So you're going to have four outstanding left-handers in the Braves bullpen. Advantage Braves.
And you get to the later stage of the game when you have Jordan Walden and Craig Kimbrell. I mean, left-handed, right-handed, it don't matter. Them two guys right there, they just shut you down.
Yeah.
You know.
A decisive advantage for the Braves in the bullpen, and we'll see if that is going to be the recipe for their success, because that is the strength of the team. When we get back, we're going to break down Georgia, LSU. What a great game that was.
Man, that's game of the year candidate right there.
Hey, business owners, are you tired of spending an arm and a leg on office supplies? If so, I've got 3 words for you: Heron Document Systems. Heron Document Systems can offer the prices of the big box stores and give hometown customer support and service. Copiers, scanners, printers, toner, banners, you name it, Heron Document Systems can get it done. Give Keith and his staff a call to find out how much money they can save you. 912-267-7802, 912-267-7802, or online at heronds.com. Online at heronds.com. Welcome back, UnCleated. Garrett Gibbs, Jason Bishop on the Bishop Media Sports Network.
Georgia, LSU.
The game of the year, to this point anyway, Georgia, LSU. Everyone I talk to, Garrett, I do because of what we do. I know that you do as well. We get asked a lot about games. You know, who's going to win this game? We haven't been so good about answering that question correctly, but we do our best. We'll give our opinion, and so everybody that asked me, I told them, I'm just flip a coin. I mean, really, it's going to come down to a play here or a play there, but these teams were so evenly matched that it just had to be a great game.
It did. I thought that LSU's defense, would have been the deciding factor in the game, depending on how they played. And they're young too. They're very young too, much like Georgia. And, it showed. I think both of the defenses, clearly vulnerable. What can I say? It came down to the home field advantage. I think won it for the Dogs. I felt like Mettenberger outplayed Murray very so slightly because he didn't turn the ball over, which that was kind of a surprising factor. And the LSU running attack just really wasn't there the whole game. I mean, they rushed for I think it was 80-something yards on the ground with Jeremy Hill. Georgia did it predominantly without Todd Gurley, their number one guy, and arguably the best back in the nation.
Georgia's defense, Todd Grantham, their defensive coordinator, obviously made the decision that he was going to force Zach Mettenberger to beat Georgia. Their defense was geared and selling out at stopping the run. And you're right, and they did a fantastic job for that. And Mettenberger's numbers weren't bad. He had good numbers. He played well. He needed to make one more throw, and he couldn't make it.
Yeah, I mean, he pretty much ate him up through the air. I mean, he had 3 TDs for almost 400 yards. So, I mean, you put those kind of numbers up for any quarterback, for any team, they win. And I don't think a coin flip, I don't think you can describe it any better, because that's exactly how the game ended up. It was a coin flip. Either way, each team had a chance to drive it down the field and win it at the last. And, Georgia came out on top. And
Georgia's offense once again proved that it's not overhyped. 44 points already, adding to where they're at already on the season. And that's playing 3 top 10 teams that their offense is putting those numbers up against. So I cannot understate how big of a win that was for Georgia, because now, you have a little bit of a chance to take a breath now. I don't want to say ease up, but the toughest part of your schedule is done and over with. Now everything else from here on out, I don't want to say it's going to be a cakewalk. You still have to play the games. You still have to focus on what you're doing, but the level of competition is not going to be as high as it has been this first month of the season.
I just hope that Tennessee, the Floridas, the Kentuckys, and the Auburns, they still have those on the schedule. And I just hope they don't get better as the year goes on, because that's going to, I see some potential there at Kentucky. I think Florida, with the new quarterback coming in, they're going to offensively. I think defensively they're pretty solid. I think offensively they're going to continue to get better every week. And let's just hope, by the time they play on November the 2nd, that they're not good enough to stop Georgia. I don't feel like that Florida's defense can hold Georgia to under 30. I really don't. I think they're good. I just don't think. I think Georgia's offense is just that much better. I think they're that good.
Georgia's offense is stupid. LSU's defense is really good, and you scored 44 points. And it's not like LSU's defense played terribly. They didn't. Then they played pretty solid. You look at the numbers, and you're like, oh God, they got lit up. Well, yeah. But who hasn't gotten lit up by Georgia?
Yeah, this is arguably the most high powered offense that they've had under Mark Richt. Running backs who can rush for 100 yards every single game, no matter who they play. And then you got Aaron Murray, who's doing it without really a marquee receiver. Some of his favorite targets are Justin Scott Wesley, who's really stepped up and done a great job as a freshman. Mm-hmm. I mean, and then you got Arthur Lynch, who's, what can I say? I mean, he's just he's an offensive tackle playing tight end. I mean, he's got great hands. Seems like he makes the big catches when necessary. And I don't see anybody on the schedule left that's going to be able to shut their offense down. And it's all going to come down to defense. How well Georgia's defense plays is going to determine on whether they go and win the SEC championship and then possibly a national championship.
You're listening to UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. One thing I do want to say, Garrett, is as big of a win as that was against LSU, the Tennessee game scares me. Because, talent level, sure. There's no way that Tennessee can line up position to position and win their matchups for the majority of the game. But going to Knoxville, having such a big win, that letdown factor, I don't want to see Georgia be like, okay, whew, done with that. Let's move on. I don't want to see that happen, and I'm worried about that going into Tennessee.
Or, not moving on. They get caught right here at the biggest win of the season. I still think Florida, no matter what they're ranked, if they go in and just shellac Florida, that's going to be the biggest win of the season, no matter what they do from then on out, because that's just how it is. But not moving on from this big win, they need to go ahead and start focusing on Tennessee today, and because Tennessee had, they struggled a little bit, this week, but they had a easier game. They got some time to get ready for Georgia, and they're going to be ready. You're right, they're going to be ready. But I still think Georgia's too deep, and I think that offense is just that scary good. I don't think, unless they have some special teams blunders, which they didn't have in the LSU game. And if they don't have that, I don't look for Tennessee to even be in the game at the second half.
Yeah, we'll see. When we get back, we're going to break down the top 25 games for next week, give some upset picks, and we will also do a little special segment on things that irritate myself and Garrett on a daily basis. UnCleated, the Bishop Media Sports Network. Hey, business owners, are you tired of spending an arm and a leg on office supplies? If so, I've got 3 words for you: Heron Document Systems. Heron Document Systems can offer the prices of the big box stores and give hometown customer support and service. Copiers, scanners, printers, toner, banners, you name it, Heron Document Systems can get it done. Give Keith and his staff a call to find out how much money they can save you. 912-267-7802, 912-267-7802, or online at heronds.com. Online at heronds.com. Welcome back to UnCleated with Garrett Gibbs and Jason Bishop on the Bishop Media Sports Network.
Top 25 Roundup.
Getting into our top 25 this upcoming week.
Before we move on, it brings me to another point. The Tennessee game, I'm still kind of stuck on that one. That brings me to another point about Lane Kiffin. Y'all remember a couple of seasons ago, about 4 seasons ago, he was the head coach of Tennessee. And they just fired him from USC, which I kind of saw that coming. I think everybody saw that coming. He's just not the right man for the job. He's 28-15 as a coach at USC, and that's not USC numbers. I mean, if you're not winning 10 games a year at USC, you're not going to last too long.
Pete Carroll lost 15 games in 10 years at USC when he was there. Kiffin's lost 15-4. Just a discrepancy. And in my opinion, I'm not a Lane Kiffin fan, so I'm going to speak pretty much straight out here. What he did at Tennessee was awful. How he did the university was terrible. And I don't think in this part of the country there are very many people that disagree with me.
No.
What just happened to him? That's karma. That he got what he deserved. And I don't want to hear, well, he he didn't have all the scholarships and the program was all the penalties that they were under and it affected the program. Sure it did. I mean, I understand that it did. But the fact is, before the season, he still had Matt Barkley there. And they were winning when Barkley was there, minus all these scholarships. What did it for him is he couldn't recruit. He could not recruit. He couldn't get kids to come to USC. So when that group graduated and moved on, there was nothing behind that group to move in. And so these kids, with the exception of Marquise Lee, who we wish him a speedy recovery, with the exception of Marquise Lee, there was no talent on the field. There just wasn't. And in my opinion, the firing from Pat Hayden had more to do with the inability to recruit to get some kids to come to USC versus where they are in the season.
And let's face it, I mean, you don't win games at the collegiate level, you don't recruit. No. I mean, they kind of go hand in hand, they didn't win. They struggled bad against teams that they normally just blow off the field. And Lane Kiffin, you're right. I mean, no recruiting. There's no recruiting. He got no talent to come to USC. Nobody wanted to go there. They were going to their crosstown rivals, UCLA.
That's right.
And now you can see the changing of the guard. USC had a top 5 recruiting class every year under Pete Carroll. And until they get back to that, they bring a guy in that can get back to that, you're going to see the much of the same.
I think here's the telltale sign of where the program is and where the program should be. It is USC. When's the last time that you and I, or anyone for that matter, have had the opportunity to say this? Arizona State blew out USC.
Never. I mean, in the last, I'd say 12 to 15 years, I mean, no. I mean, they pretty much just ran the old Pac-10. It was them. Now you've seen the rise to stardom in Oregon, but part of that is because USC's not getting the talent that they used to. They're going to other schools.
Speaking of talent, getting back to that top 25, the number 1 team in the country, they got a lot of it. They're going to be hosting Georgia State. So out of Atlanta, Georgia State with the football program that's been in existence now for I think 2 years.
Right.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and pick Alabama to win that football game.
Wow, that's a surprise.
Yeah.
I think Alabama's just. I think Alabama is just that. I mean, they're Alabama. Their offense somewhat struggled a little bit Saturday against Ole Miss, but people short selling their defense. Hey, Ole Miss. That was a big hype game. They left that stadium with a big goose egg on the scoreboard. I just feel like that Alabama, they're getting better every week, and it shows.
Yeah, speaking of getting better, this is UnCleated with Garrett Gibbs and Jason Bishop on the Bishop Media Sports Network. Oregon goes to Colorado. Any chance of an upset here?
I don't think so. I think Oregon's just too strong. I think they just run that spread. They're just too strong. I don't think Colorado have anything for them.
Yeah, Clemson is also on the road. They're going to take on the Orangemen of Syracuse. I don't see anything happening there either.
No, I think Taj Boyd has another typical game for him. 3 to 4 touchdowns in the air, probably 1 or 2 on the ground. They roll.
All right. Ohio State, the fourth team in the country, goes on the road to face a much improved Northwestern team who is in the top 20. I think their ranking is 16. So number 4, Ohio State at 16, Northwestern. Who you got?
I would say Ohio State by 3 points.
I'm going to pick the Buckeyes too. I don't think it's going to be that close. I think Ohio State Northwestern played neck and neck first half. Ohio State begins to show their talent level in the second half. Pull away. Number 15, Washington goes on the road to face number 5, Stanford in Palo Alto. Washington has had a great start to the season. It ends this week.
I think this is going to be the key matchup this week for the Pac-12, and I look for Stanford to continue their winning ways.
I think Stanford rolls big. Number 6, Georgia goes on the road at Tennessee. I am officially going on record and putting Georgia on upset alert in Knoxville.
I have to disagree with you there, Jason. I think Georgia's gonna they're gonna come in and they're gonna roll the Vols in front of their home crowd.
We'll see. Number 7, Louisville goes on the road against It really doesn't matter who Louisville goes on the road against. We know it's going to be a cupcake. Louisville wins.
Yeah, Louisville wins big.
25, Maryland goes to Florida State.
That right there is my upset pick for the week. I think Maryland is much improved over years past, and I think you're going to see a Florida State team come in who's undefeated. They've been tested as of late, but I think they're going to overlook Maryland a little bit because they still got the Canes and the Gators on the schedule, and they got that big matchup. Don't forget, Clemson is right around the corner. I think they overlook Maryland a little bit, and they get upset.
Wow. All right, so I'm not in complete disagreement. I think Maryland's going to give Florida State all they want. I think Florida State's talent on the field prevails in the end. Close. Florida State takes it at home only because they're at home. Good pick. Number 10, LSU goes to Mississippi State. LSU is going to be pissed off from losing to Georgia. Mississippi State is going to get rolled.
Yeah, I agree. I think LSU is going to come out this week and show that they're, that they're not a one-loss team, and they're going to come out and they're going to roll over Mississippi State.
TCU goes on the road to number 11, Oklahoma. Everyone all of a sudden, we get talking about this bandwagon crap. Everyone's talking about Oklahoma jumping on their bandwagon. They are not as good as people think they are. You beat Notre Dame, who's not very good anyway. TCU knocks off Oklahoma.
That's your upset
That's
pick?
my upset pick.
Hey, that's a good pick. I look for, I agree. Oklahoma hasn't played anybody. They really haven't impressed me this year. And TCU is I think they're going to be the hungrier team Saturday.
Yeah. Kentucky goes on the road to Columbia, number 13, South Carolina. South Carolina struggled last week. I don't think it's going to be that much of a struggle against Kentucky.
Well, don't forget they lost Connor Shaw for a couple of weeks.
Right.
That's probably going to put a little monkey wrench in their program. Of course, after he went down, keep in mind, they went straight to the ground game, and they just rolled from then on. Closer than the experts think.
Okay. Georgia Tech goes south, down to South Beach to play number 14 Miami. Miami's had a good run. There are a lot of folks that didn't expect them to be where they are. They had the big win against Florida. They haven't really had too tough a game other than that, but they've looked good in those other games. Georgia Tech's gotten off to a good start. Had the setback with Virginia Tech last week in the Thursday night game, but they played them tough. Miami's 14th in the country. Georgia Tech unranked. That's going to change. The Yellow Jackets take down the Canes.
I got to disagree with you on that one. I think in years past, ever since Coach Johnson has gotten to Georgia Tech, I don't think they've beaten Miami. And I think that Miami, with their defensive speed, they just have that. They have their number with that triple option offense that they run. I think that the Canes take care of business.
We'll see. West Virginia coming off the huge win against Oklahoma State. They're going to go on the road, take on number 17 Baylor. All the momentum West Virginia has, they get that game.
I tell you what, you got to favor Baylor being at home. Don't sell them short. I think they carry that momentum and they give Baylor all they want.
All right, I'm going to take Baylor as well. Arkansas goes to the swamp to play the Gators. Any chance of an upset?
I think there's a small chance, yes, because of the game they played against A&M last Saturday. I think that's another one that's going to be a little closer than the experts think. I just think that Florida's somewhat struggled to move the ball, and I think Arkansas's got a little better defense than people give them credit for.
All right, well, I think Florida's going to win. Minnesota goes to 19-ranked Michigan, who has been overly unimpressive, have the Wolverines. Minnesota's looked pretty decent. Good start for the Gophers. I'm going to take Minnesota to go into the big house. I'm on an upset pick and roll. Minnesota upsets the Wolverines.
I agree with you, Jason.
All right.
I agree with you. I'm on that bandwagon too, buddy. Because Michigan just does not look good to me. They have struggled against teams that they should just manhandle. And I think they're going to get manhandled this week.
Texas Tech, the 20th team in the country, goes on the road to Kansas. I don't think Texas Tech struggles at all. They get it done big.
They get it done big. I agree.
Arizona State goes to Notre Dame, who now, by the way, Notre Dame is officially unranked. An interesting game. Arizona State, great start. We saw what they did to USC. So do they beat the Irish, or are the Irish better than they have shown to this point?
I think Notre Dame is in the same boat as Michigan. Okay, I think they're a little bit overrated because keep in mind when they lost Everett Golston for the year. Okay, when they lost their quarterback, they've had to completely change their game plan. Arizona State goes into Notre Dame, 2 scores.
All right. I'm with you. Arizona State blows out the Irish. I don't think it's close. Fresno State at Idaho. Fresno State might be the oil in the ointment. They don't really have a tough game on their schedule. They've got a pretty solid football team. They've got Idaho. They are in Idaho. Fresno State wins.
Yeah, I think they win big.
Ole Miss, number 24, goes to Auburn. War Eagle gets it done at home against Ole Miss, dropping that goose. You know, here's the Ole Miss comes off that devastating loss to Alabama. So much hype surrounding that game. They thought they legitimately had a chance, and they got goose-egged.
They did. I mean, Bo Wallace, you know, the big hype. I guarantee you he won't make any statements before this game.
Yeah.
Because he did against Alabama, or before the Alabama game, and they just got shellacked. I mean, the score didn't show just how bad they dominated.
I wonder when people are going, especially people that are playing Alabama, when they're going to learn, shut your mouth, quit talking, and just go play the game, because all you're doing is you're firing up the number 1 team in the country like they need any more motivation. Just play the game.
Yeah, they have the best coaching staff. They arguably might not have the greatest talent this year, but they got the best coaching staff in the nation. They don't need any extra motivation. Okay, everybody's gunning for them anyway. Just be quiet, play the game. If you beat them, hey, celebrate.
This is UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. When we get back, we're going to break down our top 10 really quick, and then we're also going to Garrett and I are going to talk about calling 1-800 numbers and how much they make me angry. Hey, business owners, are you tired of spending an arm and a leg on office supplies? If so, I've got 3 words for you: Heron Document Systems. Heron Document Systems can offer the prices of the big box stores and give hometown customer support and service. Copiers, scanners, printers, toner, banners, you name it, Heron Document Systems can get it done. Give Keith and his staff a call to find out how much money they can save you. 912-267-7802, 912-267-7802, or online at heronds.com. Online at heronds.com. And welcome back to UnCleated. Garrett Gibbs, Jason Bishop here on the Bishop Media Sports Network.
College football top 10.
So let's go ahead and just go into it and break it down. Garrett, you went first last week with your top 10, so I'm going to steal your parade for a second, and I'm going to go first this time, and then let you tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, I'll talk to the producers about that later, but all right, go ahead.
At number 10, last week I had Texas A&M. I have dropped Texas A&M out of my top 10. I got to looking at everything, and there are some teams that are still undefeated that deserve to be in the top 10. I understand Texas A&M lost at Alabama, which is the number 1 team in the country. So they're just on the outside looking in. But my 10th ranked team is still Louisville. They're undefeated. Again, they haven't played anybody, but they've looked impressive. So because they're undefeated, I have to keep them in the top 10. Last week I had Florida State, I think maybe 7th. Well, I've dropped them. I dropped them down to 9th. Again, they haven't really played anybody, and they didn't really look overly impressive last week against Boston College. Number 8, I moved Miami into my top 10.
Whoa!
At the number 8 spot. The win over Florida, and they've done pretty well to this point, undefeated on the season. LSU drops to 7 with their loss to Georgia. I moved the 3rd ranked team in the country last week, Oregon, all the way down to 6th. I'm tired of seeing them not play anybody. Also, Georgia moves to 5 with the big win over LSU. Ohio State moves up with a credible win themselves over Wisconsin. Stanford is doing what Stanford does. They're the most physical team. I've got them at 3. Clemson demolished Wake Forest. They look good. I've got them at 2. When you goose egg somebody in your conference that's ranked, you can't make an argument. Number 1, Alabama.
All right, my number 10 pick this week, I got A&M still in my top 10. They still winning. The only loss they got is the number 1 team in the nation in Alabama. So they still right out my top 10. I had to drop LSU down to 9. I think they're better than A&M after their loss to Georgia. But I still think they're a solid team. I've got FSU coming in at 8, unchanged. I still think until they get to the meat of their schedule, if they get a big win over Clemson, they still got Miami, they still got Florida, so still got them at my number 8 spot. Number 7, I got Louisville. I know they don't play anybody. They're going to put up some ungodly numbers. I still that Florida win last year in the Sugar Bowl still sticks out in my mind. So I've got to have Louisville and still at the 7th spot. I dropped Ohio State down to 6. The first opponent that they've really played in Wisconsin, they barely beat. So until they play somebody more credible, I'll move them up. I still got Stanford at number 5. I think they're the closest competition outside of the SEC that the SEC has. I think they mimic the SEC a lot with their physicality, possibly go undefeated this year. I moved Georgia all the way up to 4, simply because they've had the toughest September schedule probably that I even remember, much less this year, opening up, and they've gone 3-1. So I have to move them up to number 4. I still got Clemson at my number 3 spot. They can get past Florida State and Carolina. Of course, I know that's the last game of the year, but if they can get past Florida State, they should overtake Oregon in the number 2 spot. I just feel like that Oregon is very tough until they come in to play Stanford. We'll see what happens then. And then, of course, round out the top 10, I've got Alabama. They goose egg. Yeah, I mean, they goose egg Ole Miss, and they're the defending champs. They've pretty much just answered every call that's been put in front of them. So, I mean, until somebody comes in and just beats Alabama, they're going to stay at number 1.
Yeah. This is UnCleated on the Bishop Media Sports Network. So I was at a pizza buffet the other day, and I actually had somebody literally just do something that just irritated me, and I started thinking about, what are some things that kind of irritate me that happen to me on a regular basis. And so I went to our producers and said, hey, this would be a great segment to do, and they're just like, no, that's not a good segment. We're not going to do it, but we're still going to do it.
Let's just see if they cut it.
Yeah, that'll likely happen. So this thing is, I'm at this pizza buffet, and it doesn't even have to be a pizza buffet, Chinese, whatever. And you've got the person that's in front of you. You've got the 2 egg roll trays, the long skinny egg rolls and the short little fat egg rolls, and they're having a tough decision deciding what egg roll do I want. And so you're there politely waiting on them to make up your mind, and then the person behind you just ultimately decides, you know what, I'm tired of waiting. They literally walk around you, cut between you and the other person, and dip a huge chunk of lo mein on their plate, and then walk away. No, excuse me, pardon me, I'm sorry, I'm just really hungry and I want this lo mein right now. None of that. It drives me crazy.
Another thing that drives me nuts, which we touched on the Lane Kiffin thing earlier in the show, is bandwagon fans. Okay, and I have to stay on point a little bit. Bandwagon fans. Okay, I worked with some guys that were, when USC was in their winning ways, they were USC fans. I'm talking about Southern Cal. USC fans. We live here in the Southeast. How many times have you even seen them play? If you're a USC fan and you live in the Southeast, okay, chances are twice a year.
Maybe.
Okay? Maybe. And that's if they got the primetime spot, which they haven't had that in several years because they're just not that good. But yeah, bandwagon fans, man. I mean, come on. I can understand if you're a Miami, a Florida State, some of them teams that are in our region, even up into the Carolinas. But a USC, I mean, really, what's the chances are that you're really going to go out there and see them play? I mean, come on.
Someone that I would like to go see are those people that are on the other end of those 1-800 numbers. Drives me nuts. So you call the for whatever reason, you call the 1-800 number, and you have a specific reason that you're calling for. So they go through their little teleprompt menu, and what you're calling for, not on the menu. And so the most common sense thing to do is to hit 0 for operator. So you hit the 0 button, and then it says invalid entry. And then it runs back through the same menu it just told you. You're like, I don't need these things. So you just randomly you hit 7 just to get somebody. And then somebody comes on the phone, accounting, and you say, yeah, I'm trying to accomplish this. Well, this is the accounting part. I know what department it is. You don't have an option for me to talk to someone.
Yeah, you told me that when you picked up the phone, when you answered my call. Okay, you told me that. Now, tell me who I need to speak to.
Yeah, no.
Speaking of football, I mean, going to the gym. I try to go to the gym about 3 or 4 days a week. Sometimes it doesn't happen with 2 kids and a wife and all that. It gets a little tight. But when you're in the gym, by God, put the daggone weights back on the rack when you're done with them. I get tired of going in there, going to get the bench, and I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. I got a 5 pound, I got 1 5-pound plate, and I got a 10-pound plate. Where's the other one?
I'm that guy. I will go into a gym and I'll leave my weights on the way I see it is I am actually allowing someone to have a job to come and take my weights.
Well, and I've been to a couple of different gyms, but I have yet to go to a gym where the guy's over there on the bench, he's working out, and he finishes up doing his 4th, 5th set, whatever, and he gets up, and a guy comes in like a NASCAR pit crew, just comes in right behind him, takes all the weights off and puts them back on the rack. I have yet to see that, so people, please, put the daggone weights back on the rack when you're done with them.
I am that guy. I'm also the guy that stands in line at the grocery store and the person in front of you, they've got, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, what doesn't matter. They're checking out. And then the cashier, your total is $49.23. Oh, shoot. I forgot the milk. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'm going to walk to the very back corner on the opposite side of the store to grab the milk, and I'm going to make everybody in line behind me wait the 5 to 7 minutes that it's going to take me to go get the milk and then come back instead of just going ahead and checking out and going to get it and getting back in line. Drives me nuts.
Well, and it's something that parallels that is how about they get up there to check out and it's $49.23. Well, I only have $49. Well, you know what? Put something back. You knew that coming in. Can you add? I mean, or is reading the problem? I mean, get with the program, guys. If you only have $49, then guess what? Only get $49 worth of stuff. Don't try to go up there and act like somebody's gonna come behind you and say, "Well, here, I'll pay for it." I'm stuck on this gym thing. But you go into the gym. I don't know if you've ever done it, Jason, but you go into the gym, man, and you're over there. You're working out hard, and this guy. You see him walking around. He might not be giving that advice to you. But you see him, he's talking to some dude. He's trying to give him advice. Okay, the guy's $120. The guy, the veins pop out on his forehead when he's up under 135 pounds on the bench. I'm thinking that he's the last guy that anybody should even be paying attention, any advice. He's the last guy that should be giving advice, okay, about lifting. Anything. I'm sure he struggles to get out of bed in the morning. That kind of stuff, that bugs me, man. That bugs me.
The vein in your forehead is popping out right now.
Exactly. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Matter of fact, I went to the gym this morning. I'm going back when we get done with the show.
Well, we're done. This has been UnCleated with Garrett Gibbs and Jason Bishop on the Bishop Media Sports Network.